Buenas noches a todos. Welcome back to Tom Plays Europa Universalis 4 for absolute beginners. We are back with Castile, and we are hopefully about to finally start exploring. Sure, yeah, normally I've started in much earlier than this. I expect Portugal to have a head start, but I dread to think how big a head start they now have. Okay, apparently we still didn't get it. Let's flip to the next month. A lot of stuff in EU4 is dealt with monthly. Okay, so we've got our first set of national ideas. We've got an alert. This is you can now choose a new idea group. You'll have to forgive me. I am constantly calling these national ideas. They're not. The national ideas are actually here. They're unique to Castile, whereas the idea groups are the same for everyone and they're choices we make. We don't choose national ideas. Okay, what's this? The nobles are causing issues again. So we can either gain a diplomatic insult on Switzerland, lose administrative power and the nobility loses 10 loyalty, or we can lose 15 prestige. Well, I don't really care for the casus belli, and I don't really want to lose administrative power, but at the same time, I don't want to lose 15 prestige. So, but I'm not really about to attack Switzerland, even though they're not particularly big. I think people have been eating chunks of them. Ravensburg have been eating chunks of them, I think. Possibly Savoy as well. But yeah, I'm not planning to do anything with them. Hopefully they won't mess with us. So, okay. So we have a whole bunch of idea groups to choose from. As usual, they're split into three types: administrative, diplomatic and military. And generally, there'll be 10 ideas in each group and they will cost 400 points per idea. So whichever idea group you're in, you're generally not going to be moving along in technology for a while. So a lot of the time I look at which one I'm furthest ahead in. So in this case it's really diplomatic. You can sort of tell from here, you can tell we're... actually no, to be fair, we're probably furthest ahead in military. However, things are a little different with a colonial nation because we cannot begin colonising without getting exploration ideas. So you're more or less forced to pick this one first as a colonial nation. And we already have enough diplomatic power. Got more than 400, so we get this. You can now invest in a new idea. And there we go. So this basically allows us to recruit an explorer, which is a bit like an admiral. Which an admiral is like the naval equivalent of a general, which we haven't really bothered with before. Naval combat isn't really a big feature. You're generally better off with generals, especially since if you look at the military screen, we're limited to only 2 leaders. Generally need both of those to be generals. However, we're now about to start losing military power because we absolutely need an explorer. Doesn't matter how good they are. So this is a warning saying that we've now got too many military leaders. So the point of the explorer is they can actually go into sea areas that are terra incognita. There's an equivalent for generals called a conquistador, which would allow us to go into land terra incognita. So we'll probably also be getting conquistadors at some point rather than generals. The drawback of them is they don't tend to have quite as many pips or as many stars, so they're often not quite as good. But they're absolutely essential to a colonial nation. So I'm heading south down the coast of Africa looking for anything that Portugal hasn't already taken. The reason I'm doing this is because we need to get to the New World, and the easiest way to get to the New World is hopping across from West Africa to Brazil. So I'm looking for something that's further south than Castile, but further west. The reason I can't just go straight to the New World is that there's a concept of colonial range, which is a limit to how far away you can settle colonists, basically. So technically our colonial range is more or less determined from Gran Canaria. Portugal again has an advantage here because they have the Azores here, which are quite far west, but they've also decided to colonise Tenerife, which is next to Gran Canaria. I'm not sure why, presumably they wanted to get further south. The problem is I don't know what they've colonised after Tenerife, because if you're taking too much land, we may be left with very few options as to what we can colonise. The sort of problem you often have if you're playing as France. It's okay, we're very nearly here. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. So a lot of the time I would take this area as my colonisation option. This is a very good place to go because it starts with no natives at all. See here, 0 natives. We will get into natives when we do our first colony, and it's basically within reach more or less from the start of the West African provinces and the Brazilian provinces. So that has left us with a bit of a problem. I believe that there is an area we can colonise here, which has got many aggressive natives, and we will need a conquistador in order to colonise it, in order to explore it. So it's definitely not as good an option. It's not as far west. I don't know if we'll be able to reach Brazil. So Portugal have done quite well, really, stopping us from going there. But that's the price we pay for all the lands that we took. So, right. I think, realistically, I'm going to need a conquistador. I'm going to need a conquistador, and I'm going to need at least some more troops. So I can just build some infantry, maybe a knight. I think we had room for 4 more. Okay, room for 5 more. I don't know if this is going to be sufficient, but I'm also a bit worried about reducing the armed capabilities we've got in the mainland, given that we've got this civil war brewing, which is the other joy of being Castile. Okay. Right, so I'm going to bring these ships back. We're going to finish building these troops. We're going to need a conquistador. Unfortunately, I don't think we have the colonial range to reach this piece of land. Although it would be a better option than this piece of land if we do have the colonial range. So that's the problem. Do I waste time uncovering this land just to test if we can reach it, or do I go straight for this land and just assume that we can't reach further down? So I don't want to leave that land uninhabited for too long, because I think someone else might take it, such as France. That's assuming no one's already taken it, of course. Is it even that land that I'm looking at? There is a piece of land that isn't taken by anyone else at the start. Okay, well, let's bring them down. Let's join this army together. So we're going to have to ask for yet another leader. So this is a conquistador. Not a bad one. Slightly better than I was expecting. Might as well get all the troops together. Oh. I'm being thick. Sorry. This navy doesn't actually have any transports as yet, so I'm going to have to use my main navy anyway. Alright, well, given that I can't actually colonise yet until I get to 400 diplomatic power, might as well just uncover the West African province. That would be a better option. Military access, no problem. Okay, right. Okay, so the nobles, so we either support Wana or we support the Aragonese candidate. Oh, I think Wana is actually better, and also there is an advantage with Wana being a queen. So even though it brings us closer to Portugal rather than Aragon, shouldn't matter. If we have the Iberian wedding, then we will be joined up with Aragon anyway. Okay, so we can support Wana. We've lost a lot of stability there. Got a bunch of nobles rising up. They've actually risen up in Tangier, which is very unfortunate. But we can go over there to sort them out. Okay. Right. Keep that on the slowest speed for now. And yeah, it's how soon we can raise stability again. Unfortunately, we don't have a huge amount of admin power. So we might be stuck with uprisings for a while. I think this fort, at least, we should get back without any problems. We still need to wait until they take it back. And then we head to Madrid. Oh, that's good. So we've taken that one back. Okay, the Portuguese have sent us some military aid, which is very much appreciated. I imagine the Aragonese are going to help the rebels. But it's not a huge issue. Right, so our conquistador, basically what we need them for is so they can march onto this land because it's terra incognita. So we couldn't take a normal army into that land. Right, we can't afford to move these armies until we've taken those lands back. Otherwise I think the castles will fortify themselves and we'll have a much harder time. Okay, there we go. Right, straight down to Madrid. This might work out quite well actually. It looks like we might put down this rebellion without too many problems. We just really need to raise our stability again. Okay, so yeah, it's too far away, you see. Our colonial range is 160, this is 216. So let's reboard the ship. I'm going to head back up here and try and find this other province. Right, we've taken this province as well. I'm not going to mothball the fort. In fact, I'm going to unmothball this fort now, because I'm expecting uprisings, so let's just unmothball every fort. Oh yeah, Madrid doesn't have a fort, does it? Never mind. Right. It's just a question of working out where the land is, really. With pretender rebels, you sometimes find that the army doesn't get destroyed when you defeat them, so you have to actually follow them. You can actually, to some extent, do the same thing with enemy armies. but the pretender rebels tend to only go one province and then stop, whereas enemy armies will sometimes run quite a way. So it's trickier to follow them, basically. Good, good. Alright. I'm not sure that's the province I'm actually looking for. No, I think it's this one. That looks like it's uncolonised, whereas I think this belongs to someone. So the Civil War, as well as giving us a big stability drop, has also given us... Oh, there we go, that's where they're going. I'll take you there. It's also given us much higher unrest in general, so much more likely to get uprisings. We need to try to end it, so we need to get our stability to 1, which is currently at -2, which is terrible. We need to make sure there are no rebel-controlled provinces and that any rebels that exist aren't pretender rebels. So we're okay with 2 of them. It's for stability of 1 that's going to give us problems. We really need admin power. Okay, so here we go. So the reason we can't colonise this area is that we have no colonists to send. But that's literally the only reason. Okay, right, you should head home. You should head to Gran Canaria, because I want you to start exploring. So we're at quite a big disadvantage here to Portugal in terms of colonising. On the plus side, we'll hopefully be able to catch them up a bit, because having taken so much land should mean that we have more money. And colonising is extremely expensive. I think I'm going to have to mothball the forts again. It's not ideal, but it's just costing us too much money to keep them all going. Yes, so that's good. So we have got all of the provinces back. So I'm going to head back to the forts in case there are uprisings there. We're also more likely to get uprisings in all parts of the country, unfortunately. It's really just a case of... Let's just swap for the Conquistador in case I need them again, and then we can at least get rid of the spare general. So at least we're only losing 1 military point per turn now. Still not ideal. In any case. Right, okay. So, colonising is only one part of it. Another side to this is exploration. So I'm going to see if we can discover the New World, which would help us enormously. We're also hopefully going to get our first colonists, so we can actually start colonising this area, which should prevent anyone else from doing it. So France is really going to be stumped. They may just have to wait until their colonial range improves. Oh, they can try to go the North American route, I suppose, which is what England normally does. They're probably too busy fighting England anyway. So the thing you have to watch with the exploration is that your ships will take damage, especially in the open sea, especially in unexplored areas. You need to make sure that they don't get so damaged that they don't manage to make it home again. So it's best to be over cautious if possible. It's not okay to just go down to 50% damage. Tend to lose ships if you do that. Sometimes you might find that you can only explore one new province before you have to head back. The damage tends to happen at the end of the month. Okay. So we've discovered a new world at least. think these are existing, this is like an existing nation, so I don't think Portugal's already managed to start colonising them. Oh, then we can boost stability. But yeah, because we're going along the coast, I'm hoping this won't be as damaging, but after this I think we're definitely going to need to head back to Gran Canaria. So once we do start building a province down here, that will probably become the next stopping off point for our explorations. But again, this is too far away for us to colonise. So the idea is that by colonising here, even though it's not that much further south, it'll at least give us more colonial range. And honestly, we've got no choice. We could have colonised here if Portugal hadn't got there first, which would have been way better for getting to the Americas. Oh, discovery of a new world. So we gained 50 prestige from that, which is brilliant. It is much needed. It's taken us to 74. Remember, the maximum is 100. So that is fantastic. Oh yeah, we're going to be off to a very slow start with the colonising. Can't be helped. So if you look here, the other problem with this particular area is that the natives are very aggressive. There's 5,000 of them, are very aggressive, they're very ferocious. We're going to expect a lot of uprisings, so we're really going to need these troops. In fact, let's just check whether we can build any more. We could have one more troop there, which might make all the difference, so I might just make one more troop. How are we for ships? Do you have room for one more? Oh no, hang on, was I building one? I was building one, but I've actually built them. So that was going to go into the explorers group of ships. Okay, we have a new idea, and this will give us a colonist. So here we go. Let's get started. So literally just click, choose send. We've got the option to hire an engineer, going to cost us money, but will give us military power. Or we can decline the offer and lose prestige. I think we'll pay the money and get the military power. I think it's probably just worth it for the military power, really, even though we probably can't afford to actually have the advisor as an advisor. Right. So yeah, basically we send the colonist out, the colonist will take a certain amount of time to even arrive. This becomes much longer the further away you are. And then they're going to start building the new colony. It doesn't count towards our colonial range until the colony is finished, so there's not going to be a lot we can do. The problem we're going to have is that a fully supported colony costs 2 ducats per month. So we can actually probably, oh, maybe not, I was going to say we can more or less manage to give them full maintenance, but possibly we can't. It's tricky because on the one hand, making colonies is the most important thing we can be doing, but on the other hand, we don't want to get into like a trap where we're paying off tons and tons of debts at massive interest. We already have 2 loans. So it might be safer to actually knock the colonial maintenance down, even though it will slow down our colonies, just to keep us more or less in the green on the money. It's a bit of a problem. So the other things we could do is build additional trade centres, which might be worthwhile, I suppose. We've got this English Channel one now. Maybe if we build a marketplace there, help us compete for trade in the English Channel, perhaps. That's our trade power at the moment, not very much. All the trade is retained in the English Channel because it's what they call an end trade node. There are no arrows going out of it, so you cannot move trade away. So for anyone who has it as a home node, notably England, it's extremely valuable. So England gets a lot of money out of that trade node. I think the other then trade nodes in the Manchu patch are Genoa and Venice. They're both extremely valuable also. But yeah, can't do much about that. I suppose we could consider trying to collect from trade there. It does depend on us actually keeping these lands, of course. Building a marketplace, I've kind of made the assumption that we're going to be able to keep the land. Okay, I'm just going to move you across the colony. Right, the colonist has arrived, so actually we can use it now as a base for our exploration. So what happens now is we get a certain number of settlers every year. I think 10 a year looks like. But because we've got a colonist working actively here, we also have a 9.8% chance of attracting extra settlers every month. I think that will probably go down if we reduce the colonial maintenance. So if I reduce it so that we're gaining money just slightly. It hasn't gone down yet. Our spread per year has gone down though. Which is potentially a bit of a problem. Yeah, I'm not very happy with that. I kind of feel like it's kind of gone down to the point to where we're not going to be gaining any settlers at all. Might push the maintenance up again, and we'll just see if there are any alternative ways we can make money. Okay. So we also have a certain chance, I think, of an uprising every month, 9%, which is quite high actually, and they get a plus 20% damage bonus. So I'm just hoping that our 5,000 troops are going to be enough. I might actually assign our best general to stay here. I've been a bit reluctant to get rid of any generals while we've still got a civil war going. I'm going to need for the next boost 111 again. At least it's not going up. But yeah, really, there's not a lot we can do, so let's just get back to the exploring for now. So, we actually have a trade mission for Discover the Caribbean. Not trade mission, a mission. We need to discover a particular province in the Caribbean. Apparently our ships have disappeared from the map. Slightly alarming. Look if they've really disappeared. Here we go. So far we haven't really had any choice in where to put the colony. That was literally the only colony we could reach by the time Portugal had taken 2 of them. Not that Tenerife would have done as much good anyway, because we already have Gran Canaria. But yeah, one of the things the DLCs do is it's possible to just tell your explorer to go and explore a certain region and they sort of handle it themselves. Generally they're quite good, so you won't lose ships when they're doing it. Because we have to do it manually, we have to be a lot more careful. Although there is something kind of nice about doing it manually as well. You feel a bit more involved. Sort of trying to uncover the coast at the moment and make our way towards the Caribbean. Okay, we're going to have a rebel uprising soon, so we're going to need to start moving our troops across. So we just slow things down. Oh, tell you what, let's send them back. So we'll generally avoid the terra incognita areas, so hopefully they should be able to get back without losing any ships. They're still on 90%. So we've just discovered the first of the Caribbean islands here, so we'll probably follow those up next time around. But in the meantime, going to need 2 colonial ventures. We haven't created a strong naval force. Hey, well, I don't want to abandon the idea of naval supremacy, so let's invest in the naval force. Well, actually, I don't think it really matters, because I probably won't be building any new ships, and also I probably won't be doing any diplomatic technology, but never mind. I think I might just steal the best general. So I'm going to give these guys the Conquistador, because their uprisings shouldn't be as scary. The native uprisings usually aren't too bad compared to a regular uprising. I should just check actually, where's this going to happen? Alright, so it could be in any of these three provinces. Oh, actually no, it's saying definitely Iran. Okay, well in that case, maybe I should drop them here. Let's move you along a bit so you're a bit closer. See, part of me is actually wondering, we're getting close to a papal favour. If we need to put any more influence in. Nope. Part of me is wondering if we should hold out for the stability increase, which costs 100. But realistically, I think we'll actually get the administrative power before we get the papal influence. So, probably not worth it. We're probably better off going for a papal favour with, which helps with money. Okay, so these ships should repair as long as we've got some spare sailors. So sailors are like manpower, but for the navy. I'm not sure why sailors repair ships, but there you go. So it's like we lose sailors or something. Not entirely sure how that's supposed to make sense, but hey, it's a game mechanic. So, right. Okay, so here we go, our first native uprising. So it looks like we're handling this fairly well. They don't have a general, we do. We also had more troops. So yeah, we were fine. Absolutely fine. So the only other concern is whether there's any other uprisings coming. There's Brabantian separatists, so they'll be in the far north. Castilian pretender rebels, they could be very dangerous. There are also a lot of them. The Brabantian separatists, there's a lot of them as well. Yeah, we've got some quite big potential armies coming after this one. Really could do with boosting this. Okay, so at least we're now at 0. We need to get to 1 to end the Civil War. I don't know if any of these will start going down now we're at stability 0. Probably not. That would be too much to ask for. Never mind. Not a huge amount we can do right now. There are no castles up here, so we don't need to worry about that. So we'll just wait for it, I suppose, and start exploring again. So we're going to follow the same path for now. We're going to follow these islands up to hopefully discover the Caribbean. We'll have to watch it though, because we are getting to the point where we're having to go quite a long way. And there's every possibility discovery of the Caribbean might need to wait until we've actually got a colony in Brazil. It's going to be a problem for any more military manoeuvres as well, because we're going to have to split our armies from now on. See this army we've got here, we could do have a slightly bigger one for the colonising. We'll have to see how it goes, but we're never going to be able to bring our full army to bear on anyone we're attacking, because we'll need to defend our colonies at all times. I don't know how many more times we're going to be attacking Morocco in the near future. Oh well, you know, with allies. Certainly Tunis, if it turns out they still haven't got any allies, might be an option. Okay, right, it looks like Portugal's starting on the Caribbean as well. Pretty sure that's Portugal, even though we can't tell because it's terra incognita. So yeah, colonising is a bit of a race basically, so they have a big head start. But we, in theory, can have 4 colonists, so we can be building 4 colonies at a time. And generally we also have more money and military power than Portugal. So even though they do have a head start on us, it's not as bad as it might look. However, I may actually turn around now. Probably being overcautious, but I really don't want to lose any of these heavy ships we've built. Okay, how's the money doing? We're still losing money. Not much, but we're still losing it. We've still only got 2 loans. So hopefully whatever we do with the papal favour will be enough to allow us to start making money again. So if you look at the mission tree, after we discover the Caribbean, our first mission is a Caribbean colony. So I think our first big colonial race is going to be against Portugal for the Caribbean. So personally, as well as the actual mission, which is to, I think, basically just make 1 province, I will probably want to match Portugal. So I want to... The problem is basically, if you have a war with someone who has colonies, your colonies will then go to war with theirs. So ideally, I want our Caribbean colony to be as big as Portugal's in case we end up having to fight them. I know at the moment we're allies, and hopefully we'll stay allies and we'll end up with our dynasty on their throne and we'll all end up becoming one happy country. But just in case it doesn't happen, which it may not, I want to be ready for the possibility of war with Portugal. So I want to make sure our colonies ideally exceed theirs. Okay, so apparently Gelra have shot our dodgy cardinal to the Pope and has reduced our influence. So Gelra apparently don't mind upsetting us. So we actually have now. So many people in this. Well, we'll be one of the ones with some influence at least, but not very much. Here we are. No, that's England. Sorry, this is us. Oh, so we've still got 4 active cardinals, so we're not doing badly. But yeah, right, so our next uprising is Castilian Pretender Rebels. For the close of our Brabantian separatists. Right, Castilian Pretender Rebels is a really bad one. They're probably going to be in mainland Castile. Who am I? And they're so big, we're probably going to need our armies combining. Which will probably work better anyway now, because we've only got the 1 general that's spare. So supply limit in Toledo, unfortunately, is not quite big enough for both of our armies, so we're probably just going to have to sit them next to each other. So maybe if you guys stay in Madrid, we'll take Toledo. You guys should probably have the general, because you don't have a castle. And I'm going to have to, unfortunately, unmothball these forts, because I don't know where the Pretender Rebels are going to rise, and I don't want them getting a cheap castle. Okay, apparently they're not going to rise in Burgos, so we can get rid of that. Actually, they probably won't rise in Malaga either then. Is Malaga on there? No, it isn't. So actually we're probably fine. They could rise in Toledo, so it's worth having that mothballed. Although again, we possibly don't really need it, but we'll do it anyway. So that means we're losing a bit of money, but we should hopefully have... Oh, there we go, some papal influence. So we've already taken the levy church tax. The other ones that help money are commercial monopoly, so mercantilism, and forgive usury, but forgive usury is only really useful if you have a lot of loans. So that's tricky. I mean, we could also do with things like prestige, and legitimacy. Either would be good. Does prestige actually make us money? It does give us more trade power. I might go for that because it's more useful. Mercantilism can be handy, but we're not doing a huge amount of trading yet, so I wonder how much of a difference it'll make. So we won't get any difference from prestige at the moment, but hopefully as it keeps rising, we'll gradually start to make more money. Possibly not. Maybe we need to think of something else instead. How are you doing? Getting there? Definitely getting there. Right, so we'll join you together. Speed things up a little. In fact, we won't speed things up a little, because I should probably stop there. So yeah, we finally started colonising anyway, which is what we were intending to do all along. It's obviously going to take a while for our first colony to finish. We need 1,000 settlers and we've only got 100. But we're currently fully funding them, even though we can't really afford to. So we'll just see how that goes for now. And yeah, we need to get using our diplomat system idle. But we'll leave that for next time. So I shall see you then.